Hey guys, welcome to Conspiracy Corner Podcast. This is Abe, your host. Today is April 17th, 2025. Got up early today. I have a problem with insomnia. If you guys are longtime listeners, you already know. And I get up early. Got a lot done today though. I went ahead and boiled some eggs. Me and Sammy, we bought like a little 6-pack of eggs for Easter coming up. And we like to paint eggs, you know. We like to carve pumpkins. We like to paint eggs. You know, have fun during the holidays. I'm not like Christian or anything, you guys know, so I'm not super big on holidays, but I still try to enjoy them, and I know it makes me happy, and I like, you know, crafts and art and stuff. She does too, so we should have fun with that. 420's coming up too, so I have, actually it's on Easter. Easter's 420 this year. So I have 2 episodes planned for, I'm gonna do like, hopefully, as long as I have time and energy, and you never know how life is crazy, you know. What was it, Iggy Pop? Life is crazy, candy baby. But I have a 420 episode planned and a Easter special planned. So I usually try to do special episodes on holidays, and I would consider 420 a holiday. Yeah, I went to the podcast I put out earlier today was a game review on Van Helsing, and this is related to the channel. So and I always look, man, like, I love gaming, and I could see how it could become a problem spending money on video games. So I made a deal with myself. Whenever I beat a game, I'm allowed to go out and buy another game, or a couple of them if it's cheap, you know. So I went to Game Exchange today, so shout out to them. That's my local game dealer where I get my retro shit. So these are some, if you guys have been enjoying the game reviews, I actually got a lot of new subs because of that. A lot of gamers, I'm guessing. Which some of them I think dropped off because I did conspiracy podcasts, and it's like, homie, this is 2 different podcasts on this channel, you know. Like, if you stick around, trust me, there's gonna be more game reviews. I picked up 3 games. They were picked up one, it was like $7-8. It's like a construction simulator for Game Boy Color. It actually looks kind of fun. I like simulation games, like simulator games. You guys seen I did that horse simulator game. Go check out that review. It's kind of funny. I got that. I got this game called Marines, and it looks kind of like a Halo spoof slash what was Starship Troopers. Looks like it kind of controls like Monster House for Game Boy Advanced, which I have that game. I'm in the middle of playing it. I will review that one day. And I picked up Turok number 2, Seeds of Evil for Game Boy Color. It's a black cartridge, so it's Game Boy Color or Game Boy, either one. Whichever system you have. I got something on my nose. It's a black mark. I wonder if it's ink. But I'm gonna be self-conscious about that now. It was pretty cool, dude, because like I was gonna get just those first 2 games and call it a day. That's $14, and I was like, oh, dude, because those Game Boy games, I thought the owner, honestly, not the owner, but the store manager, I thought he was just bullshitting me to like get me to come back more often. But he's like, dude, we get Game Boy Color, and Game Boy Advance carts like every day, and people buy them just about every day, and I'm like, okay. And he's right, dude. Like, I've seen, every time I go in there, there's new games, and some of the games that I go in there to get are already gone. So I knew if I didn't pick up this third cart, the Turok 2, I was like, it ain't gonna be here. So I go to pay for it, and he's like, oh, it's actually $2 off. So I'm glad that I stayed and got it, because I got it for, it was $7.99, and then it rang up as $5.99. It actually went down $2. So I was like, fuck yeah, dude. Like, I had a feeling, like, I don't know, man, my intuition, you guys know me, I used to do tarot and fortune telling and stuff. Like, I have a pretty good fucking intuition, and it was like, I just glanced, and I looked over, and I seen it in this little, like, tub full of Game Boy carts, and it's like, get that game, get one more, you know. And I did, and they all work. I tried them out. So there's 3 titles. That's my little game haul for today. Those are 3 titles that look forward and keep an eye out. Go ahead and subscribe, and if you like game reviews and you like that playlist that I created of game reviews, stay subscribed and keep an eye out, because put the notification bell on, because I will end up reviewing those games, I'm sure. So that's it for a intro. Let's get on with the subject. So, first subject, and it might be the only subject depending on how long-winded I am. This came to my attention through, I can't remember which channel it was. Otherwise, you guys know me, I would give the proper shout outs. But it was one of those TikTok compilation commentary channels. And it reminded me of Black Mirror, and it reminded me of Clockwork Orange. So back in the day, I used to be like a psychonaut. If you don't know what that is, it's someone who experiments with psychedelics. My psychedelic of choice was Robitussin. I went through a bad phase where I was on Robitussin pretty bad in high school. I had like my first true heartbreak from a girl, and everybody knows how that feels. Like when you're truly madly in love, head over heels for someone, and it's like your first heartbreak. This was my first heartbreak. And my parents were going through a divorce at the same time. And we ended up like moving to Danville, ended up living in Danville from Lancaster. Ended up kind of couch surfing at my brother's for just a little bit till we got our own apartment in the hood of Danville, in an income-based apartment. But anyways, so I was playing around with drugs like a lot. I was pretty much doing whatever I could get my hands on. And at the time I was doing like inhalants, lots of marijuana, and Robitussin. Robitussin was my drug of choice. So we had this video store up the road in Danville, and it was called FYE, For Your Entertainment. They're not even really around anymore. I think we got one left here in Kentucky that I know of in our local area. It's at the mall. But it was awesome, dude. You could get like, I would get all my obscure content there. Like I got a Hunter S. Thompson poster there. I got all my Misfits, Sam Hain, and Danzig CDs from there. I started watching trippy movies and like obscure movies. So like Natural Born Killers, Donnie Darko, Sid and Nancy, The Doors, Pink Floyd's The Wall. One of the movies that I got into during this time when I was a psychonaut was Clockwork Orange. And this story that I'm about to tell you of something that just came out, or it's probably been out, but it just came across my little news desk, I'm now made aware of it, reminded me of two things: Clockwork Orange and Black Mirror. So in Clockwork Orange, basically the main character, his name is Alex. Yeah, I think it's Alex. I wanted to say Alec, but it's Alex. He's like in a gang. And by the way, there's a lot of conspiracy stuff with Clockwork Orange, like the one eye symbolism. He has one eye with fake eyelashes on it and mascara. And there is a scene where he literally is talking about adrenochrome. Behind him is painted on the wall adrenochrome, and he's like in this their hangout spot, literally talking about adrenochrome. And by the way, the movie was directed by, I believe, Stanley Kubrick. And you guys know the whole conspiracy behind him, Eyes Wide Shut, the moon landing footage, which, by the way, I did a review on Eyes Wide Shut, so go check that episode out. It should be in my movie reviews playlist if you're on YouTube, but if not, you should be able to find it on Spotify, anywhere. Just type it in, you know. We delve down that rabbit hole, so I don't have to rehash it if you're interested in the whole Eyes Wide Shut conspiracy. So, Clockwork Orange, another thing too, I was listening to Sam Tripoli's Tinfoil Hat yesterday, actually. I was listening to it yesterday, and I was out and about running errands. I went up to the corner store to get some CBD, but they didn't have any. Which, by the way, check out the 420 episode. It's going to be like a self-help, holistic medicine, a health episode. I've been wanting to do health episodes here lately. Last year, before my hiatus, I wanted to start getting into it. So, check that out. Shameless plug. What the fuck was I saying? You guys gotta love my brain. I told you guys I was a psychonaut. But anyways, so Alex in the movie, he's basically like a low-life street urchin. He's in a gang, and they have rival gangs. They fight. They just basically, they go around raping women. And he, oh, I remember Tinfoil Hat. By the way, since we're talking about Clockwork Orange, so I don't forget. Tinfoil Hat, apparently, Clockwork Orange in general, used to be, it was an actual CIA, it was either CIA or MI6 operation, which you guys know, like, Mossad, MI6, and CIA, they all work together, yet they're in competition. You guys know about the Five Eyes. If you don't, look into that. Maybe we'll do a whole episode on it, or at least a segment of one. I'll go through all the info and make a structured outline. So there's this theory that, and they were talking about it, and I didn't even know about this theory, that they kind of name things, certain things, to make it harder to find actual info on. So like, and I'll give you examples. So Clockwork Orange. So if you type in Clockwork Orange, this movie's gonna pop up, not the actual operation that the CIA, MI6, whoever it was, did. Intelligence agency. It makes it harder to find results for it. All that's going to pop up is the movie. They did this with 2 or 3 other things. Walt Disney Frozen. So if you were to look into the conspiracy of Walt Disney's Frozen head, they made a movie called Frozen, which was a huge hit. You know, I know my daughter was obsessed with it. She watched it like 1 billion times every day. And I just remember her going around singing, do you want to build a snowman? You know. Or, let it go, let it go. No, the rain doesn't bother me anyways. I don't remember the lyrics, but so now when you Google Walt Disney's Frozen head, trying to dive into that conspiracy, what's gonna pop up? Walt Disney Frozen, the movie. And there was one more that they did this with. So, with the Great Reset, one of the things is climate change, which used to be global warming. That shows you how old I am. But anyways, climate change, we all know, is one of the big evil things that the elites in the World Economic Forum with the Great Reset that they're all using and shit. Klaus Schwab, Darth Vader. So people were pointing out, the conspiracy community was pointing out, hey, all these motherfuckers meet at the World Economic Forum in Switzerland or whatever, and they all fly private jets instead of carpooling. I guess it'd be like jet pooling. Did I just invent a word? Why aren't they all jet pooling and shit? They care so much about the environment. They want us all locked in 15-minute cities, driving electric self-driving cars like Minority Report. And we are a menace to Mother Earth Gaia. All it is Gaia worship, but they invert everything. They make everything evil. Like, there's nothing wrong with Gaia worship and Mother Earth worship. There really isn't. It's pretty harmless. Honestly, it's probably one of the most harmless religions, if you want to call it that. More like a cult, but occult. But you guys know they invert everything. So people were pointing this out, but when you go to Google, Taylor Swift was a part of this. God dang. Dude's having truck problems. You gotta love podcasting in the wild. But when you go to Google Taylor Swift, she was getting called out too, because apparently she's a climate activist or something. When people were calling out her, taking her little private jet all over the country and different countries and shit, destroying the ozone layer and polluting Mother Earth, Father Sky. They think that there's a theory that they forcefully made her and whoever her boyfriend is that was on the New York Jets date. So that way when you Google Taylor Swift jet, all that's going to pop up is their stupid romance, and that's all that's going to pop up. You're not going to be able to find anything about her private jet flying. None of that. So this is how they muddle the narrative. I gave you 3 examples. Fucking crazy. Give me just a second and I'll recoup. So at Clockwork Orange, after he gets caught for his crimes against humanity and rape, he gets sent to prison, and in prison they're like, hey, they check his record and shit, and they're like, hey, you've been a good boy. Do you want to try this experimental thing where basically we brainwash you and you'll get out? So he's like, hell yeah, I'll be a guinea pig. Basically, they tie him to a chair in the middle of a movie theater and make him watch all the crimes that he committed on film. And they hold his eyes open and they put eye drops in, and he has to watch it. And it pretty much brainwashes him to the point where if he were to commit an act of violence or try to rape, he would literally get sick and start puking. So, why does this tie in with what I'm saying? There is a new fucking thing. It's called Cognify. It's called Cognify. And basically what it is they're wanting to put in, basically just like Clockwork Orange, where they're wanting to put in brain chips to prisoners, and by the way, prisoners, they don't have to do this. They're not forcing it on them yet. And basically what it is like if you go to prison and they're like, hey, you can do 10 years for rape. Let's just use that as an example. Or you can try out our Cognify system, where they put you in a chair, they put the brain chip in you, the brain implant, and basically what it does is it only lasts about 10 minutes is what they say. And go watch the video. Just type in Cognify on YouTube. It's fucking terrifying. It only lasts like 10 minutes, but in your head, it will feel like 10 years. Say you got 10 years of prison, that's your sentencing. It'll feel like 10 years up here, but it's only technically 10 minutes. So you're experiencing 10 years in your mind, and it feels as real as possible. And people will go, well, that's impossible. No, it's not. DMT, the drug and what your brain naturally produces. I have had dreams that felt like days or hours. I've literally looked at the clock. It's like 1 a.m. Passed out, went into deep REM sleep, vivid dreams, and wake up and look at the clock and it's only 2 a.m. 1 hour passed, but it felt like 5 or 6 hours in my dreams. So we know, and that's DMT. Your brain produces DMT when you sleep and when you have a near-death experience. And there actually is studies coming out that your brain is actually still alive for like 8 minutes after death. And that your brain is producing DMT. That's why you get like the whole life flashing before your eyes of basically your whole life. Kind of like the Day of Judgment. Basically all your sins and everything, good and bad, all the memories of your life flash back to you for those 8 minutes, and it feels like days and hours. And so we know how strong the brain is naturally. Also too, I heard it was on a podcast. It was Sam Tripoli. The podcast was an old one. It's really hard to find, but I did find it and I listened to the whole thing. Well, as much as I could find. It's kind of rare. The Naughty Show. The concept was Sam Tripoli interviewed like porn stars and shit. But anyways, he had a guest on. It was Ari Shafir, which if you guys know who he is, cool, whatever. They did DMT live on, no. It was Salvia. Was it DMT? No, it might have been DMT. I can't recall, but anyways, Ari Shafir has talked about DMT. He did DMT, and he literally tripped. It was either DMT or salvia, and it doesn't ruin my point because it just shows you. The point I'm making is how crazy time perception is, drugs, and the mind. So it could easily be done with a microchip in your head with Cognify. I think it was salvia. He did salvia, and he was only tripping for like 5 minutes. It lasted about 5 minutes. And I've talked to other people about salvia before. People have told me their accounts on it, which I might share another day. But his trip, he literally was like a sea monkey person. He walked into a lake, and in the lake was like an Atlantis. And he met a girl. She was a sea monkey person, and they got married and had kids, and he had a job, and he would like do house chores, and he literally lived what he said like years in his mind, and it felt like years. And then when he like sobered up and woke up after like 5 minutes of tripping balls, he was freaking out. He literally freaked out on air on the podcast and was like just freaking the fuck out. And he's like, dude, I lived years. When he finally sobered up off air, he was like, dude, I lived years. Like, I had a family, children, I had a job, I lived in an underwater Atlantis, I was a sea monkey person. So like, we know how strong the brain is. So I believe in this Cognify shit, and it's fucking terrifying. And with Black Mirror, dude, they brought this shit up. And I don't know if it was predictive programming or revelation of the method, or we are giving these people ideas. Or they're just like watching this shit themselves and they're like, let's do that. You know? Black Mirror, by the way, the director literally stopped making the show because it was freaking him out too much. That everything he was writing about and making episodes about was actually coming true. That's a true story. Look it up. Maybe we'll cover it on a episode. So basically, there was an episode, and I remember I watched the whole series. I cried my eyes out on a couple episodes, and it's a rough show to watch because it will leave you hopeless, depressed. It's sad, some of those episodes, man, and terrifying. But there was one episode where there was a guy, and he worked with like some sort of police agency, and he was a piece of shit. And they locked his consciousness within a device. They hooked him up to some sort of device, and they had a button. And he was stuck in a house. And they slowed time down to where he was only trapped in this, his consciousness was only trapped in this device for like 5-10 minutes. But they made it feel like 100 years of him just trapped in a house. He couldn't eat, he couldn't sleep. And if I remember correctly, what it was is they were blasting a song on the radio over and over and over and over and over again, kind of like Groundhog's Day with that the alarm clock when he keeps smashing it. Damn, that movie's a little deeper than I thought of, man. That's almost like Cognify within itself. But at that, he keeps waking up to, well, just put your little hand in mine. Was it Bob Dylan? Bob Dylan has grown on me. I used to hate him, but now I actually kind of dig it now, the older I've gotten. Music is like flavors of food, like it changes throughout the years. But yeah, they just blasted this fucking radio for like what seemed like 100 years, and it was only like 5 minutes, and that was his punishment for his crimes. So Black Mirror, Groundhog's Day, Clockwork Orange, everything that is terrifying is all coming true. And what concerns me is basically, what if you're wrongly convicted? What if you are wrongly convicted for rape or murder, and you have to live? And what they do is, here's another thing they do with this Cognify. They said that they would make it to where you experience what you did, but you are the victim this time. The roles are reversed. So if you're in prison for stabbing someone, they make you experience the memory, the pain in real time of getting stabbed. Also, they said that they would make it to where you have to feel like what the family members of that victim felt during the court cases. Maybe being an eyewitness to the crime. Maybe just hearing the news that their daughter was dead. They make you feel every emotion and pain, and what it's supposed to do is rehabilitate, which I'm all about rehabilitation within prison and jail. Jail and prison should not be used as a punishment. It should be used as a rehabilitation facility, which is what it's supposed to be, but it's not, sadly. Yeah, but this is fucking terrifying, dude. And we know throughout the years, man, that prisoners have been guinea pigs throughout the years with government, CIA experiments and government experiments. I mean, I did a whole episode on it. I can't recall what prison it was, but I did a whole episode on how they were experimenting with vaccines on prisoners, and injecting them with diseases and shit. And it's just government experiments done on prisoners, you know. And there was a guy, he was in prison in Australia, I watched a whole documentary on it, and they were blowing LSD through the air vents. And it wasn't even a conspiracy. It was proven and everything. They were experimenting with LSD on prisoners without their consent, making like entire wards of prisoners in this Australian prison trip balls. Like, it's crazy shit, man. So I'm going to wrap it up there. Look it up, though. It's called Cognify. I wanted to talk about it because it's concerning and terrifying. And I feel bad for anyone with a wrongful conviction who not has to because it's optional right now, but someone who feels that they have to do this and are wrongly convicted. I feel bad for them, and I pray for them. So I love y'all. Please like, share, and subscribe. I'm trying to get up to 500 subs. So y'all have a good day.